We are live. Well, hello all. I'm D-Bay. I'm your host of the channel RPG with DBJ. And this week we are going to talk about well, Law and Order. Uh Essentially because I got to watching some some Law and Order, but what does that have to do with tabletop RPGs? Well, we're going to find out. Now, for those who don't know, we take a subject, we take that subject and we subdivide it all week long. So it could be anything from dreams or mysteries or war or anything like that. So this week we're going to take Law and Order and how do we insert it into our tabletop RPG games. Now, when I say Law and Order, beyond the typical city guards, besides the typical PCs causing lots of trouble and having the faceless city guards run after them, I'm thinking of the entire legal processes that we think of from ancient times all the way to today, whether it is the enforcement of the rules and law and protecting the people, to enforcing the rulership of maybe some of the people that we don't want in power, all the way to investigating the crimes, prosecuting those crimes in a court of some sort, whether it is just lip service or a truly open public democratic method, either done by a government or maybe a church institution or what have you, and then the punishments that come about beyond the simple executions, although they're executions of humanity itself in our own world. We had some pretty unique executions all the way to imprisonment and other types of punishments and things. And so I thought I would do something like that for this week. Now, why Law and Order? I was like, well, it's not a one-for-one opposite of Halloween, since next week's going to be Halloween, but I thought I'd bring up something that's like very on its surface rather like common and boring and like police procedural. Like, wait, what? Tabletop games? Yeah, we're going to do that. All right, so so I got Plur started on a whole tangent there. Yeah, Plur, going to take out your feeler, draw back the squirrel a little bit, hold on to that info, because I think that can be a really great. Yeah, you might have to wait a little bit, but I think this is going to be a really great subject. We got to talking before we went live about something else. Now, for those who don't know, and for those who might want to participate, you can tune in to the audio if you join the Fantasy Grounds College Discord. And if you join the Fantasy Grounds College, you go over there, you'll see it. Once you join their Discord, you'll see all the classrooms with the administrators there having their classrooms. You slide on down on the left, and there's some classmates there doing their thing, running a bunch of games and such. And then at the bottom in the boiler room, it's where cool kids hang out. So you can do that. By the way, if you're not familiar, you don't know, Spooktober is coming up for Fantasy Grounds College. There are plenty of details, but in general, if you go to Fantasy Grounds College, and you'll find that information down below. Not right now. I got to actually input it in. You'll find out that they are running games from the 25th to the 27th, and so there's plenty of spaces open. And if you had any interest in getting involved in Fantasy Grounds at all, please do that. And furthermore, if you already have the basic Fantasy Grounds package, they are doing the ultimate. They're opening it up so that you get to play with all of the games, and they are not limited to just Dungeons and Dragons, since Fantasy Grounds has the rights to use many games from, Fate and I could start listing them off, but my brain just farted. So sorry. Oh man. Okay. Okay. So let's get to the subject. All right. So today is Monster Monday, and with Monster Monday, I thought we would talk about some of the unique things that we can add, NPCs, creatures, monsters, whatever the case may be, constructs, undead, all that kind of stuff that we can introduce into our tabletop role-playing settings to act as um, the legal enforcement arm of our world. Now, one of the things that does happen quite a bit, and especially if you're a new role player, is that there's this idea that because it's almost a metagame thing where the player characters understand that their capabilities will start to outpace the commoners in your world, whether it's some kind of fictional ancient time to some kind of Renaissance Victorian era to our modern day into the far future. And because every game has to have some form of statistics, and some games like maybe Call of Cthulhu or GURPS, which tend to tend to um, tend to slide towards the more realistic, like no matter how many skill points or whatever, or how powerful your character is, and that's relative in say like a GURPS or a Call of Cthulhu, you're still vulnerable to death quite easily. Some other games, Dungeons and Dragons most specifically, you are not, as you start to creep up in levels. And some players get to holding that as a truism of the world, and so feel like, oh well, 0 level guards, they're pushovers. Okay, so one thing I thought we would talk about are adding in like NPCs and things like that throughout the world, and creatures and monsters and things throughout the world to be that enforcement arm. And excuse me. And by the way, Pelora, I feel you. Actually, that's what the purpose of this whole channel. Okay, so this is a slight segue, but it makes it this is going to make perfect sense to you guys when I finish it. Pelora has an idea in her head, and it is sticking in there to the point where I can see, I can almost like I imagine her hands furiously trying to find a piece of paper or a document or something like that to write these things down, because once we get an idea in our head, that creative spark, we don't want to let that go. And it's like, oh, I got to write that down. What's going on? Oh, this would be great for another game that I have, whether it's one coming up or one in the future. And we creatives and community and kind folks out there that tends to be our thing. So I feel you. I don't think it's a bad thing. But that's why we have squirrels on our channel, because squirrels always pop up and it's like, another great idea. What squirrel? Anyway, so I remember at one point someone chastised me in one of these comments in one of the videos about the fact that in ancient times there were no investigators. And that always bothered me, because I was like, well, wait a minute, there's fireballs and dragons and shapeshifters and magic and other dimensions, but there's no investigators. So one world in which people like that exist pretty openly in a fictional medieval style world is the world of Eberron. And in the world of Eberron, and this is something that you're probably going to have to figure out for yourself, the world of Eberron has a very wide arcane bent to it. So, and I say wide because this is a term that they've used as well. It's very wide as opposed to high magic or low magic. And a commonality is that low magic is a world where the influence of magic and or the ability for the common man, including the PCs, to access magic is very rare. It's probably extremely difficult. It's held within a specific collection of people, or certain capabilities that even if you have the magic, it has a high cost to it, making it even more rare. And then high magic tends to be the opposite way, where magic isn't just ubiquitous, but it's something that the people have seen. It's very powerful. It can, it can figuratively and literally move mountains and such. And then there's the idea of narrow and wide magic. Now, wide magic would be that the equivalent of magic being ubiquitous, where the common individual comes into contact with magic pretty commonly, maybe even from a weekly to a daily basis. They're not surprised by it, but it's not very powerful. And Eberron, the world of Eberron is kind of shaped around that, where so silly. Dead man puts in the Discord. Uh, Nutty the stuffed gray squirrel. Yeah. You guys are silly. Oh, so oh yeah, and then put in the thing. So the and then I got squirreled by the squirrel. So there's the in Eberron, you get the idea that like cantrips first and maybe second level magic is pretty common. Like I could imagine people taking a shower under a small storm cloud. There are, magical documents that cannot be read except by someone on the other end or something. There are individuals who are hired who only learn, 1 to 3 magical cantrips or something, and their job is do that. Well, in a world where the law needs to be enforced, I'm imagining a world where magical, for lack of a better word, police and detectives would exist in and of itself because of people like the player characters existing in this world. You're so wrong, Seth. Yeah, a mighty assumption that everyone knows what a shower even is. Oh, that's so bad, but true. Very true. Although I suppose if you have a chamber in your home that is normally nondescript, and by a command word it fills up with water, I don't know if anybody would particularly want that. I'd rather have a nice soft summer rain pour down on top of me than holding my breath inside of that same squared chamber in the corner and have it fill it with water. Although that would be kind of cool though. And then afterwards the water drains away, and then maybe like a little tornado swirls around you to dry you off. That'd be kind of cool. Yeah, Plur says in Invisible Sun there are legal forms you can't lie on. See, I love little twists and turns of things like that, like contracts that are magically bound. We of course, make a deal with the devil, right? That's one of the most common things, signing a deal with the devil, selling your soul. But having contracts, like you're saying, like where you have legal forms where you can't lie, or signing a contract enlists a magical being that enforces that contract between the two, or Plur's like brings up unbreakable oaths between two parties. I believe White Wolf also created the ancient version of Changeling the Dreaming, about the Fae, and in the past the Fae had promises, and the promises were related to they were like wood promises and stone promises and iron promises, that they would keep with humanity. The idea of leaving milk and cookies out, or a muffin or something out for the Fae creatures, and when the people went to sleep, the Fae creatures would come in and clean their home and such, and elf on the shelf kind of idea, and which in and of itself, although we did bring this up when it came to Fae creatures, having a contract between two parties that has some form of external enforcement other than going to a judge or something would be kind of cool. Um, yeah, Zev says, I believe a chamber that fills with water is a James Bond villain trap. I think it's been used more than that. I think it was even used in the Prestige movie. But you got to see that movie to understand the context of that one, because that would give too much away if I explained it. Normally, I like to explain those kind of things, but it just came to my head. So the other thing uh, is the idea of adding in the little bits and pieces, divergent pieces in the game setting and bringing them together as one enforcement arm. For example, there is a creature known as the Invisible Stalker. And I remember us having a talk about the Invisible Stalker, that the invisible, making a joke about the Invisible Stalker miniature, that is just it's just a base. There's nothing on top of it. And I believe someone did draw a picture of an Invisible Stalker, although I like the idea that the Invisible Stalker doesn't have it. It feels and sounds and smells like what you fear. Yeah, Dead Man says it's more of a villain trope than a trap. I agree with you there. Yep. 7.99 for the base. Yeah, yeah, there's nothing on it. But the Invisible Stalker itself kind of sits outside of its origin sits outside of the regular Dungeons and Dragons monsters, right? It's a creature summoned from the elemental plane of air. For some reason, I don't know why. I guess it has to come from somewhere, but usually summoned to perform a particular duty, stealing something, killing someone, hunting someone down, something down or whatever, exacting revenge. And then the Invisible Stalker goes after them and finds them unerringly. But could you imagine a world in which important documents are signed, and if one or both parties break that document, uh, these Invisible Stalkers or some other, it's a stand-in, right? But the Invisible Stalker hunts them down and brings them to justice, either becoming, judge, jury, and executioner itself, or capturing them and then bringing them to justice, and maybe even the people, where this invisible force pushes through a crowd in a crowded bazaar, and one of the people in that bazaar gets snatched up in this kind of like a whirlwind or something, and snatched away or whatever. Everyone's like, I know what they did. That'd be kind of cool, where everyone's just like, yeah, okay, I get it. But any other kind of creature or monster NPC could be part of that as well. Also, yeah, as everyone says, it feels like what I'm afraid of. Like, how does it take the form of like of heights or commitment? If, I think I know what you mean by that. I'll extrapolate out of there. Also, it says heights. It takes you up very high. Commitments. It's looks like a wedding. Uh, uh, an invisible wedding. Hey, who knows? Now, there is the idea, though. I mean, you guys are. What's okay? Prison, Game of Thrones, um, the Eyrie, a place where they have prisons where they only have 3 walls, or maybe 2 walls and a gate, and the last wall's gone, and that wall is open, and if you step outside, there's nothing stopping you from stepping off the back end of your prison and falling to your doom, and the floor is tilted so that if you fall asleep, you will slide towards that end to fall out the back end of it. I think that's crazy. That's a nasty thing to do to people, because yes, there's lots of tortures and punishments, but heights is one of those things that's like pretty bad. Oh, I've never been skydiving and won't and will not at all. But I suppose if you wanted to have a some form of public punishment, you could have hanging hanging cages for people, tiny ones where people are trapped in, like crammed inside of them, almost so small that it like wraps around their bodies, to larger cages that could be dangling over some other horrible location, dangling over a castle wall or a lake or a raging river or um, a giant crevice or something where the city sits on the edge of a cliffside or something. Zeb's like, never a case of overcrowding in that prison. Nope. That person you don't like that falls asleep and snores really bad, just give them one little push and they fall out the back end, right? Uh, uh, Tesla says, a Game of Thrones, prisoners at the area are incarcerated in the sky cells which are open on one side to the air. As there is a very slight slope in the cells, and prisoners must be careful not to roll out of the cell in their sleep and plummet to their deaths. Yeah, no. Yeah, that's okay. I already feel my gonads trying to creep up inside me just thinking about that. So yeah. Pelor says, putting people on a narrow ledge. There isn't enough room to sit down, like 4 inches wide. They have to stand there. If they fall asleep, twitch, or sneeze, they're gone. Ooh, that's nasty. Yeah, that's really bad. That's really yeah, that's just the punishment is just walk out on this ledge. It's like 30 feet, it's like this really long expanse, and they go, nope, you've got to step out there, because if you try to go to one end or the other, maybe there's like a blade there or something harsh, or maybe they coat it with grease, and the only dry safe place is somewhere in the middle. Oh. Zev says, in Destiny, you have an alien race known as the Vex. They are a collection of fluid that activate a metal chassis. They are a collective that have one mind. They reshape the galaxy to fit a pattern. They head back in time to digitize planets and reform them in the order they believe fits the grand design. I'm not sure where you're going with that. Although I suppose in a very chaotic type of world, there may be enforcers that are trying to enforce some sort of order, and that order might not be a social one, but it could also be enforcing some type of order. Okay, there could be something ephemeral in the world in which, much like the Modrons in Dungeons and Dragons, that are enforcing some form of order that we can't see, like enforcing reality, because maybe reality tends to break apart. Mercury is essentially a cube at this point. Ooh, what? Oh, they've reshaped it. I guess terraforming would be a minor way of looking at it, but turning a planet into a cube is kind of a weird thing. I love it though. I was saying to them, they are a computer mind that sees their pattern as the true order of the universe. They stand against chaos, and it's possible that in a particular type of setting, there is some other force out there that is acting upon the world, especially when you have PCs that have access to. I mean, PCs are going to be chaotic anyway, right? Not in alignment, but just in their actions and such. And this other outside force might be something to lock down on, say, magic or using magical powers. I mean, we've heard of the magic is illegal in this world, or in this city or whatever, this nation or something. But how do you enforce that rule? Who investigates if and how that rule is broken? And if the rule is broken, hey Vince, and if the rule is broken, what happens to that person, right? Like, is there a passive method when PCs and outsiders use some special power? If someone uses the power of their mind, do they glow brightly? Do bells ring or horns trumpet, or like Do they leave strange purple markings everywhere they walk from their footsteps or something? um, yeah, Pelor's like anti-magic bubbles, or that if you use magic, it backfires. Right, like what is established? Is there something? Are there? We haven't gotten to judges, but we're basically talking about like the 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 enforcement, investigation, persecution, and imprisonment and punishment of people who cause crimes in your fantasy and or modern and or sci-fi settings. That's what basically. So we haven't talked about judges yet, but like in Vampire the Masquerade, they have a specific faction of people known as archons and justicars. They are vampires that are the enforcement arm of the rules of the vampire society. And I'm pretty sure in our fantasy worlds that it would make a lot of sense. The more magic there would be, I'm sure, for good or bad, or whether desired or not, there would be a faction who's out to put a stop to, control, mitigate the chaos of magic being used in the first place. Pelor says there's a spell which makes objects of power in Invisible Sun bleed, and in Invisible Sun it would literally be bleeding, and that may be a thing. Someone casts some kind of spell in the city state, and their eyes and ears and nose start to bleed. That would be kind of sweet as well. Or they everywhere they walk and everything they touch just has a bloody handprint on it or something, even though they're not dripping blood. Maybe it's just a side effect or whatever. But yeah, backfiring magic. You go to cast a magic spell and all of a sudden their eyes, like it's almost like they start to burn or get blasted with electricity from the inside out or whatnot. Or maybe tall parapets fire down upon that person with a bolt of purple lightning or something when they do things. Pelor says they also have the Thaw, who just show up and break some knees. yeah, when people go against the order. So yeah, and right, much like Zevron was talking about, where you have bringing up a race of people that wants to create order. It's possible that society elicits the aid of some outside force that instills order for the purpose of keeping order. I got disconnected with my audio again. Discord's doing that. Vince says they're basically magical people who enforce specific laws during conflict. So in every combat, you are not allowed to do specific things or receive penalties. It would be like you. So I'm getting the idea you're saying that there might, for example, there might be a faction that only investigates and stops and hinders, say, mind control, like mental influences, where there may be another aspect of people who are there to stop physical destruction, like setting things on fire, freezing or electrifying them or something like that. Zev says that just sounds like the judges from Judge Dredd, but with magic instead of multi-setting guns. Although that might not be too far off, though. But yeah, maybe there might be a judge, jury, executioner style faction. Although you could split all that up, right? Like maybe, for example, what's a brilliant creature like a sphinx? You know, I could imagine a sphinx being a kind of justicar of a city where the sphinxes are the ones who enforce the law of. They didn't create the laws and rules of the city, but they were brought in to enforce those laws. And then the Sphinx give orders to, I don't know, the gargoyles that go around and go after these individuals that break these laws. And the Sphinx are the ones who can detect the magic. And maybe they go after, maybe they're proactive. You know, they know that you're some kind of magical entity coming into the city, and they come to you and say, you know, we're going to make, We request of you very strongly to wear this ring or medallion or be marked by some kind of magical marking on their forehead or on their palm of their hand or something, that if you come into our city, your magic will be limited, you know. Then says, continues on and says, and so in one combat, fire magic isn't allowed, or you receive first a yellow card and then get removed from combat with a red card. Yeah. And then your enemy starts to, your enemy flops. I take 3 points of damage. I've got 187 hit points left. Oh, that hurts so much. Sorry, little sports thing there. Polar says if you wanted to switch that to role playing, you could just mirror the damage back or something. The cards things works in a video game though. Although I could see, I mean, taking away the silliness, there could be, though the card carrying individuals there might be power behind it, much like what is it, the deck of many things, right? You pull a card and that card is more than just a yellow piece of paper. Maybe there's a very powerful magic behind it, and if you receive a yellow card, like it's like you're going to get smacked by it. Or maybe they work like tarot cards, where the drawing of a card summons or brings about an effect that, you know, of course in physical reality wouldn't exist, but because you drew the card of the 7 storms or something, that you're going to be smacked by the 7 storms. Zev says, I believe the plural of sphinx is just sphinx. Listen, this channel's not about correcting me and my pronunciations, or is it? Yeah. Yeah, the plural for sphinx is sphinxes or sphinges. Yeah, don't. Yeah, I for some reason I just got the idea of sphincters, but I don't know why. Each combat has other restrictions. You know that I can imagine what you're saying there, Vince, as for like dueling purposes. I could imagine that being a thing where someone offends someone else in public duels, much like Kertaman in Ars Magica, the role-playing game, where 2 wizards engage in something known as Kertaman, where they use pure raw magic against each other, and in various ways, much like a pure singularity of magic, like a black hole sits between 2 magi, and each tries to shape it and warp it with their own specialty to make it do a certain thing. Not necessarily shooting each other with fireballs, but it's more like, I'm going to shape this into an iron block, and I'm going to turn it into a rabbit, and I'm going to, you know, surround it by a storm, and I'm going to, you know, turn it into a block of wood or something like that. Deadman says official plural of sphinx is sphinxes. Sphinx. Rickard, hey Rickard, Law and Order this week? Where's Sergeant Totola when you need him? Yeah, Law and Order this week. I figured it. I figured we could get a little bit as far away from Halloween as possible, and it whatever. I was doing a honeydew list and got to watching some Law and Order marathon or something, and that's it. Plur says, "Oh damn, there's a load of spells in Invisible Sun to do with lying. Like when you lie, the words float above your head." I like the idea of like when you do something wrong, it's like imprinted on you, whether the words float above your head or they're imprinted on your skin without you knowing it. A word, you know, the word liar just appears on your forehead or something, or you're struck mute, but the words that you meant to say become real. It's kind of weird. Sponge sphincters, yeah. Zev says Webster says sphinges. Sphinges? The plural of sphinxes? Sphinges. Finn says, and and you can cheat with specific one-time magic items that replace or negate those laws. Or maybe they are for sale or given to people who they are given to important personages in the city, or people who, or maybe if you know someone who knows someone, or you make certain promises, or you have enough money. So instead of going straight anti-magic, hey, when you walk in the city there's anti-magic, maybe there are pathways. There are cracks in the armor of the anti-magic, and you can get away with doing one or more things if you have these specific magic items that allow you to cast magic in a place of anti-magic. Zev says, I love the Verity circles in Ravnica. When someone goes before court, they have a magic sigil around their neck, forcing them to speak truthfully, elsewise it begins to choke them. Never kills them, though. And also, what's the spell? Zone of Truth, I believe. It's like a circle of truth or something. I mean, now, I'm forcing someone to speak the truth. I'm going to bring this up because you'll get where I'm going with this. I'll get into the chat first, and then I'll go back to my point. Blur says, I know some people who would lie deliberately. Yeah. Just to have the medallion or the sigil or something force them to tell the truth. There could be the magic of, say, a triumvirate of individuals. They're like judges that sit before someone that forces them to tell the truth, or maybe a very powerful psychic entity like a ghost, or like in Ravnica, there's, the Council of Ghosts. Maybe they're a ghost or banshee or something like that stand in court in your world, specifically to have people tell the truth as well. Zev says, people can still speak without fully speaking the truth as long as you talk around it, which is true. And I'm going to bring that up as well. The strongest of these sigils are crafted by Sphinx. Don't you mean Sphinges? They're crafted by the Sphinges there, dude. Tesla says, there's a GURPS adventure where escaping gladiators have their skin color changed into a vivid and magical shade of rich violet. No, I hear you, Zeb. But yes, there are, like, for example, maybe warnings or minor infringements of the law cause someone's skin to change, their color to change. Maybe their voice becomes different, or Charlie. Hey, Charlie Square, what's up? Never Sphinges. Sphingiao? How does the magic determine the difference between the actual truth and what the person believes is the truth? Thank you very much there, Tesla. So I was going to bring this up. I've always often referred to something known as the easy button in role-playing games, especially 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Easy button, meaning there's some difficulty in front of you, like I need to eat or discover my way around something or see something, and then someone goes, oh, I use this to solve the problem. Much like most magical detection processes are like this. And the thing is that, like Tesla brings up, a monkey wrench that I believe that you could use in this kind of world is that what is a lie and truth is based on what people believe. Much like when you put a bunch of strangers in front of someone and someone says, here's a lineup, pick the person that harmed you, there's a good chance people who have seen a crime committed will pick the wrong person, because who they believe did it and what they think they've seen does not necessarily match up with what they actually saw. Someone could be in a red shirt and instead they think they saw a green shirt, or someone has a conversation, and much like the kids game telephone, one conversation will not be heard the same way amongst 20 individuals. So Hmm. Hmm. Vince says, truth is a weird concept. What about people who lie to themselves and believe stupid things to be true, or get fooled by others and believe a lie to be true? He's not telling the truth exactly, and so that's based on the fidelity of the truth enforcement, right? If someone lies to you and you believe that to be true, and you have some form of a lie detection on you, you will be, despite the fact that you are literally spouting a lie, you believe it to be true, so it might be true. Now, maybe this would take further investigation. And this is where, if the PCs themselves are the investigators, if the PCs themselves are the police, the detectives, the SWAT team, they are the strong arm of the law in this world, it's possible that their magical or psychic abilities or something that allows them to discern the truth requires far more than just, I just put them in the, put the medallion on them or put them in a circle to make them tell the truth. Also, the opposite goes true for this. If you've ever watched any Law and Order television show for any reason ever, or actually any police procedural television show or movie or whatever, people lie all the time. And a lot of time they lie because of embarrassment, or they feel that they are engaged in some kind of illicit activity that has nothing to do with what the investigators are looking for. So, for example, a business, yeah, Tesla Ranger says everybody lies, quote, everyone lies, from house. Exactly. People lie about, they go to the doctors and they're like, doctor, cure me. Doctor's like, what are your symptoms? Person lies that they're receiving, they have some kind of like anal leakage or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, people will, I've got hemorrhoids. Well, people lie about that, they lie about their age and their weight. And it's not even believing the lies. It's the fact that, for example, the investigators might be going after, let's say the PCs are going after human traffickers or humanoid traffickers or something, and someone's been, those damn drow have been, go enslaving people yet again, and they go to ask a local shop owner who's embezzling money, right? And the investigators were like, I don't care about the embezzling money. We're going after the human traffickers, but people will lie. And so they will lie about their standing in society. Some people will prop themselves up when they may not deserve it. Others will lie about projects they're working on and things. So a truth telling mechanism might overly punish individuals in this society, or it's not trusted at all. Also, there's there's many other things. Zed says, I can't believe we made it this far without anyone trying to bring up the Law and Order saxophone. Law and Order saxophone. Maybe there's hope for humanity. I don't know. I've never heard of a Law and Order saxophone. The yeah. The music, I'll get dinged by YouTube if I go too far. Vince says, how weird would a lie detector be that can tell if you tell the absolute truth? They did this in Stargate once, where they searched for an involuntary sleeper agent. So you're saying a lie detector, so for example, you're saying like maybe someone has been lied to or hypnotized to commit a crime. They themselves do not feel they're lying, or maybe they've been replaced by like a doppelganger or something, and then the lie detector detects that they've been, say, hypnotized, or they've been lying about something, and even the subject themselves doesn't realize they're doing it. It might make things easy, although it would complicate the lives of those who feel like they're telling the truth. That would be rather interesting, to put people in a spot and realize that, someone's been hypnotized to perform some kind of illegal act for the past couple of weeks, and they're like, I don't steal. I've never stolen anything in my life. And then come to find out that they've been controlled to steal gold and slide it under the table and take it, put it in a satchel and leave it behind the building every week and realize that they didn't do it. Yeah, it says yeah, I never claimed to be good. I mean, yeah, if they are sleeper agents, their lives are already complicated. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And then trying to find the sleeper agents as well. Um, yeah. Charlie says, yeah, you just brought it up. The spell is broken. Congratulations, you done effed up, right? Right. Exactly. Like, yep, you're the one that did it. Stargate Divide and Conquer. Hmm. All right. So, okay, so we have ourselves yeah, Mr. Dillard, we've been activated. Maybe a little Jason Bourne in there as well. Some Touchstone agents being activated. I think it's coming to television, at least here in the States under TNT or something. Okay, so we have ourselves some detection magics, but we can still add on many layers, whether it's detecting magic, detecting thoughts, detecting good and evil, and a lot of those things. Well, even though that really doesn't exist much anymore, it's more like detect magical extraplanar beings, but very much. So we have ourselves our investigators. So then we have to prosecute those crimes, right? I would love to see a D&D version of Doctor Who, Cybermen. So, sorry, just reading in the chat as well. Is that how you know someone casts Sphere of Truth? The sax comes in and now you know you have to tell the truth. And then you got to walk towards the camera in slow motion. All right, so let's prosecute some of these crimes, such as bringing people before the Council of Sphinxes, the Council of Sphinxes, or whatever. Okay, let's get away from it. Maybe there's a powerful lich or something that, or what have you. I hear it. Sorry about that. He's like, no. Goodbye, never to return. No more Sphinxes around me. Rickard. Yeah, or maybe that's how the city watch is on the way. They walk in slow mo. Yep, walking towards the camera in slow motion. So now, even though court procedurals might be kind of might be on the boring side, right? I mean, do we really want to role play the intricacies of the law? Well, you don't necessarily need to, but I can imagine having some fun with the idea of players gathering evidence and witnesses. That would be kind of cool. Discovering, going around maybe a major city, questioning individuals. Zev is our resident Ravnica expert. I can imagine the planar city of Ravnica that takes up an entire plane of existence, or maybe a whole planet is a giant city, and the PCs are the ones who have to, like, every game could show up with them dead bodies, and they have to investigate, and they question witnesses, and they gather evidence, whether it is the classic fingerprints or something, or they start gathering other evidence as to who was there, and then bringing that into a form of court of law, not necessarily one, specifically a judge and jury, but there could be it could be very seat of the pants, much like a very rural community where they pick an elder of the town and a bunch of the important people, and they sit around at a table and choose the fate of someone without a book that tells them what the punishment might be, or bringing up some other methods to discern the truth from people. Yeah, Rickard says, I would create an evil PC to make sure we got the theme and the slow walk into sessions more often for sure. The evil PC is like, I'm gonna make this look cool. I don't care. Pelor's like, such a stain on my beautiful language. Zev's like, the city watch would be so ineffective if they could only slow-mo walk. Now, mind you, maybe their slow-mo walk has to do with their powers. They move quite quickly, and then to look cool after everyone claps and they get their bad guy, they get the slow-mo perp walk. Curly playing a magic lawyer and having a blast in Ravnica. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Oh, I did not know that. Yeah. Objection. No, but in all seriousness, though, I think you could. You wouldn't have to role play out an entire court session. Kitty, what are you doing? But I could imagine a couple of skill rolls, some role playing in there, bringing together some of the individuals that have been affected by it. You know, bringing in the witness of the doppelganger who was accused of portraying the physical form of someone else, and a doppelganger's got to explain its actions and why it decided to hide as the betrothed of the Duke or Duchess or something. Like, I think that'd be kind of cool. Rickard says, I think objection is a 9th level spell. Yeah, like, boom, we're going to put a stop to this. Pelor says, in Mistborn books, there's a set of magical abilities where you have to store up assets for use later. The guard could be slow-mo walking to store up their speed. Yeah. Don't leave them alone. Just walk on past them. I know they're moving in slow motion. They'll get there sooner or later. Unless they're like classic monsters from monster movies where the slower they walk, the faster they get there. Zev says the Guildmaster's Guide even recommends that for an all Azorius party to treat it like a group of cops solving mysteries and handling court. Only if you want to, though. No, I absolutely agree. I think it would be kind of cool, even if the PCs aren't lawyers themselves, being in the employ of the law enforcement arm of the world would be kind of cool. With them, maybe the rule is you must gather at least three forms of evidence to prosecute the ghoulish gang, right? There's a gang of ghouls that have been going around killing people, and the ghouls themselves are like, we didn't kill anybody. We might collect the dead bodies, but we're not the murderers. And so, okay, so now you've got the ghouls, and you have to convince them, well, you have to testify that this is what you've been doing. And the ghouls are like, but people don't like us anyway. I don't want to testify. I mean, they don't want us in the city, but it's important for us to be in the city because we get rid of the dead bodies. I mean, it's our thing. And so maybe you have to convince them. So that's okay. That's one form of evidence. And so now the killer, okay, now we've got to find them traces of blood or something. And then whatever the case might be, I think that would be kind of cool. Yeah, Zev says, I'm an order domain cleric, and I already stopped the first bad guy by finding out he was in breach of contract of not paying for the materials he was using to make a bomb. Going after enforcing contracts, maybe instead of a magical contract that enforces to strike someone down, maybe the PCs are the agents that go after those who break magical contract or contracts enforced with magic. And so the minute the contract is broken, it's like ding ding, and like, oh, there we go, we better go after them. And then physically the PCs have to hunt those individuals down and get reparations for broken business contracts or contracts of marriage or just contracts between friends. Rickard says, objection, enchantment, level 9. Reaction, cancels out target's action and replace it with one of your own. Target can no longer use that action for the rest of the combat. Ooh. And of course we have other methods to discern truth and lies, right? The idea of dueling or armed combat to settle a situation. Whoever wins is the true person, and everyone just walks away, right? It could be that there are like golems or something that are who who or golems, gargoyles, animated statues, or other kinds of animated things that are enchanted to only go after the perpetrators of certain broken rules or laws or something. Um, Plurist like automatic counter spell if you shout objection. Bam, objection, boom. Uh, yeah, Deadman says the slow-mo effect is done to represent the inexorable effect of law enforcement. Yep, yep, absolutely. And of course, we have ourselves, maybe we'll talk about punishment, prison and torture and other kinds of physical punishment. We'll hold that up for, because we've gotten to the hour mark. That Rickard's like, that is now my house rule, which very much could be a thing, right? Let's say an ancient civilization created this thing where it's not just anti-magic, but it is such powerful magics that no one person controls it. It's just it is the law of this world. And so I hear you, Zeb. A certain type of person would love to talk about punishment. I know a few. Yeah. Get a spanking. It's like, are you going to punish me? Please do so. No, but my audio dropped out. Testing. Anyway, so yeah, there is the possibility. Oh, I think my audio dropped out. I hope my audio wasn't out this entire stream. Maybe it was. That would suck. All right, guys. Anyway, we've come to the end. I want to thank everyone for joining me for this episode of Law and Order. Oh man, we can hear you just fine. I decided that it was too wrong to work. Thank you very much. Oh, plural. Oh, dirty. Yeah. What's your name? Honey, you keep that up. It's whatever you want it to be. Right? Exactly. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Of course, tomorrow is Discord Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, Third Pillar Thursday, the third pillar of exploration. Not sure exactly where we're going to go with that one. Maybe we'll talk about exploring prisons, prison escapes, and things like that. And then, of course, we've got Future Friday, and of course, next week, it is Spooktober over at Fantasy Grounds. So please join Fantasy Grounds College to take part in that. If you had any interest in using the Fantasy Grounds platform, free classes, sign up, learn how to use it, get some great ideas, that kind of thing. Yeah, third pillar talk of a courtroom. Yeah, police, courts, prisons. That's like kind of those are three things. Yeah, torture chambers, prisons, courtrooms, gallows. Yep, exactly. Hell, the differences between jail and prison. Of course, you have yourself some exile, and then once you start adding in little elements of magic in there, prisons that are infinite, jail cells that shrink you down to 3 inches. Punishments where you get shape changed, or if you tell a lie, your nose grows, or you turn into a donkey or something. All kinds of stuff like that. What the hell are you guys talking about? Gual? Oh, the haplogen Gual. Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. I'm going to be in the Discord. Everyone have a great one. I'll see you later.